And so I found that song, and well, actually, let me show you my remake first. Inside her new Balenciaga, cigarettes in tiny liquor bottles, just what you expect. Inside her new Balenciaga, cigarettes in tiny liquor bottles, just what you expect. Inside her new Balenciaga, cigarettes in tiny liquor bottles, just what you expect. Inside her new Balenciaga. So yeah, that's the remake. I think no mastering. I think I came pretty close. So let me kick it off by sort of showing you some steps that I took, or I guess how I put this thing together. So the first thing I obviously added was the vocal sample, which is literally the beginning of that song. Let me show you this. So as you can see, it's pitched down 5 semitones. The original sounds like this. We pitched it down 5 semitones. Took out some low frequencies, some high frequencies. Not that there's a lot here. I added an OTT to bring out some more high frequencies and that little melody / noise that's in the song, just to contrast the bass. An LFO tool that adds sidechaining, and I had a mono in here as well. It just centers the audio, but I took it out for now. And this part just loops. I added a little bit of a filter. Here, as you can see, it's a high pass filter. It's sort of opening up right before the drop, and then we have the sub. That's just a sample from Cashmere's pack. Right, but you see there's 2 tracks. So this track is actually a reverb track. Because on its own, it doesn't sound full enough, so I added a reverb track to sort of back it up. And all this reverb track really is just the same thing that's up there, but with this reverb set to like 80%. That's about it. And I just sort of, volume automated right here, and then it also adds like a little nice sweep effect when it drops. It's like, it's like the adds like a little shh, shh, shh. So to give more contrast to the actual bass drop. So these 2 are in the sample group. That's that. Then I found the kick. It's a nice little clicky kick. I believe I took out some high end from the kick to leave it for the vocals. So there's nothing on it. It's just a kick. Next, I added a snare, and the snare in the song is really quiet. So it's just just compressed it a little bit, gave it some reverb. So with the kick, it sounds like this. Next was the fun part, the bass. So this is what the bass sounds like. It's literally just one melody sort of repeating. Can even just do this because it loops. So the bass consists of 2 parts. There's the actual bass itself, and then there's a sub. The sub is literally just it's just a serum patch, and then it's just an EQ that literally cuts out everything else. And since I'm bad with scales, and generally I'm bad with like notes, I use like a little helper that sort of auto corrects my notes to the right key. And since the original song is in the key of C minor, transposing it 5 semitones down brings it to a G minor, I believe. So the remix, or the song Balenciaga by FILV is in the key of G minor, whereas the Halsey New Americana song is in the key of C minor. And then this is the bass. So this bass actually came out of a G House bass pack, but I had to modify it a little bit just because the original patch came with, I believe it was sine wave and a triangle, or sine wave and a square, and it sounded a little bit like too synthy. So I messed around with the low pass filter. I messed around with the modulation, the sine shaper, and I cut down the high shelf EQ a little bit, just for the sound to sort of sound a little bit more subtle, but a little bit more on the bass side. And then I added, obviously, my chord helper. I added an OTT. So I'll show you guys sort of how this sound comes to life. This is what it sounds like without any effects. OTT adds just a little bit of crisp to it. Then I added a Camel Crusher. So Camel Crusher again adds a bit of those mids. Then I took out some stuff again with an EQ. As you can see, I'm taking out the sub low end, and I added a wider, which is a really cool plugin by Infected Mushroom. It just makes the sound a little bit wider. And then I added a limiter. Again, I'm not like a pro mastering, mixing person. I use, for the most part, I use EQs to shape the sound, not really, adjust it. I kind of like, when I learned how to use EQs, I was like really young, and then they helped me. The way I've been using them my whole life was just to shape sounds. That's why you can see these really weird EQs on the sub. But together it sounds pretty good. And then of course I have a sidechain, not as drastic because the bass is sort of the main element in the drop. And then yeah, I added some hats here as well in the hat group. Took out again the subs from the hats. There's 2 hats layered on the offbeat piece. It's this hat, and it's this hat, which is not even a hat, it's like a percussion thing. Yeah, reverb, OTT, EQ. I took out some some treble hi hat as well, and the little tiny hat that I sort of picked out from the song that just does this repeating pattern. Little trap hat, I compressed it a bit too, wider, and LFO tool, because this hat happens so often that sometimes it sort of it gets a little bit too muddy so in the mix, so I had to add a little bit of a side chain to it, just so it sort of falls back in terms of what you hear. And yeah, so when all this plays together, you get this. Yeah, that's about it. That's the remake. The BPM is 110. If you guys want to try it out yourselves. But yeah, feel free to ask me some questions and leave comments, whether you think I nailed this one or not. And yeah, for sure listen to the original song. It's awesome. Sadly, they took it off of Spotify, probably for copyright reasons, but regardless, yeah, thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.